Hey, are you an agency owner? Maybe you're a freelance designer or copywriter, web developer that dreads having to talk pricing with your prospective clients. Well, if that's you, today I'm going to help you fix that, introducing you to a stress less, profit more agency pricing proposal tool that transforms any agency services pricing discussion from an angst filled negotiation into an anxiety free, collaborative budgeting exercise that you and your prospective client can solve together. And I promise you, you'll both be happier for it. Hey, I'm Tom Martin. Over the last 30 years, I've served as head of business development for multiple agencies. I'm currently an agency owner myself. But during my career, I've negotiated tens of millions of dollars of client contracts spanning all sizes and types, from huge AOR contracts with global brands like Hilton, Fireball Whiskey, Toyota, to locally owned companies, mom and pops, where unfortunately project work tends to be more the norm. So I've sat in these meetings and I've been on pricing calls, and I understand exactly how hard it is for you when you're asked how much to feel really comfortable pushing a big, but in your mind, fair number across the table and then not blinking. But you know what? If you stick with me today, we're going to solve that issue once and for all. But first, if you dread all things selling, or maybe you think you're not particularly good at it, be sure to click on the subscribe button and don't miss that bell icon, because that'll make sure that every time I publish a new video on all things associated with prospecting, nurturing, and closing clients, you get notified. Look, pricing discussions don't have to cause you anxiety or create any tension in a new agency-client relationship. But the secret to having successful pricing discussions with your clients is really simple. You have to stop framing your agency or your individual offerings as subjectively priced services, and instead, you have to present them as clearly defined products that have a fixed price per unit of that product that a client wants to buy. But to do this, you're going to need a tool. And if you don't like building your own, well, stay tuned to the end of this video and I'll show you how to get a hold of the one that I've built and that I'm going to walk you through today. I call it the BSGC Pricing Proposal Builder. And frankly, clients have told me it's a magical tool that not only removes the anxiety from a pricing discussion, but it actually makes it easier to close clients when you get them to that point. Now, it does this by shifting the focus from a subjective negotiation of how much a various individual deliverables should cost into a transparent budget allocation discussion, if you will, where you're going to maximize that allocation across a menu of potential deliverables that they can hire your agency to perform. Now, normally, we don't really know how much it should cost. We're looking to you. You're the professional. Tell us. And really, that's the first major problem with how you're handling proposals now. And I'll get back to this in a minute. But first, let's go to the second major problem with how you're probably handling your pricing proposals today. Being the good agency or freelancer that you are, when you're asked to give a proposal, you respond with a proposal. But that's where you run into the problem, because you give them emphasis on the singular pricing proposal. And this is what really starts to create major issues for you as an agency or a freelancer. First, without a budget and a scope, there's really no way you can provide a truly accurate proposal that achieves that client's goals while ensuring that you can profitably deliver those goals. I'll come back to that in a minute. Second, because you've never been given a budget and you have really only a very vague idea of scope, you're basically shooting in the dark. They've backed you into a room and they've said, hey, here's a dart. I want you to try to hit this imaginary dartboard. I want you to hit the bullseye on the dartboard, only you can't see either the dartboard or the bullseye. So you take a shot, you throw the dart, and as we all know, you never hit the bullseye. And, clients will do this. They'll tell you, hey, we're ready to spend whatever it takes. We don't really have a set budget, but, come on, that's all BS. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've never met a company that has unlimited budgets or can just set them as they see fit. So there is a budget. They're just not sharing it with you because, frankly, that gives them power. I mean, let's face it, by the time you get to the pricing negotiations, you're pretty far into the process. You've invested a good bit of time, money, your effort. So you're kind of loath to waste all that effort and lose. And you can see it, right there, the win, it's right there on the edge. All you got to do is get over this last hurdle and you've got a new client, a new project. So you do what everybody does. You sharpen that pencil as sharp as you can get it. You put forth your very best number. And it's almost always too high. And in those few cases where it isn't, and they say, oh yeah, great, and they sign, your first response is, oh, I left money on the table. What was I thinking? Why didn't I charge more? And what's really funny is those clients, those ones that sign immediately where you feel like you left money on the table, there's this incredibly interesting correlation between losing money on projects and clients and those kinds of clients. And the reason that happens is because you allow your fear of losing that prospect, of not converting them to a client or a project, override your desire to make a profit. That has to change. Now, but the vast majority of the pricing proposals you're going to submit, you're going to send it over and the negotiation dance will begin because the client's going to focus on the only variable that's available to them, and that is a line item price for, or maybe the hours associated with a particular deliverable, right? And it's funny, those prices always seem high to clients. And a lot of people say, companies and agencies we work with will say, yeah, it's just client negotiation tactics. And there probably is a little bit of that. But I honestly believe that clients just really don't know how long it takes to do things. They've never lived in a world like we do, where you have to track your time and how long it takes you to do. So they don't understand, like, how long does it take to write a memo? How long does it take to write an ad or code a website? They have no concept. So here you are, you've presented this fair proposal that you hope is going to allow you to serve the client, you're going to make some money, but immediately you're being asked to negotiate against yourself, right? Because hopefully there's not another agency they're pitting you against, but you're negotiating against yourself because you're still trying to hit that elusive bullseye that you still can't see. Sound familiar? I know I've sat in that meeting 100 times. I've had that discussion more times than I care to count. And it's because of this frustrating process that you feel all this anxiety. It's why you detest these whole pricing conversations and contracting conversation. And in some cases, honestly, even the clients don't really care for them because it just sets everything up as me against you, us against you kind of thing. And that's just not productive for anybody. But the truth is, you're doomed to continue dancing like this because neither you or your client has a tool to fix the problem, that is vague scopes and budget targets, until now. Because see, the BSGC Pricing Proposal generator solves both of these issues for you. And it does this by helping you quickly and easily produce not one, but 3 different scope and pricing options, no matter how vague the scope or frankly, how invisible the budget. And best of all, you're not going to feel an ounce of anxiety building your pricing proposal or walking that prospective client through it. But there's always got to be a but, right? Here's the bad news. I'm pretty good at Excel and Google Sheets. In fact, I actually won a Lotus 1, 2, 3 competition my sophomore year in high school, which tells us 2 things. 1, yes, I'm that old. And 2, yes, I was and may still be that big of a geek. But this bad news, there's also some good news, because while you can certainly build this tool yourself, and I'm going to show you how to do it at a high level, it's going to take a lot of time. I would say conservatively, mine probably took me anywhere from 20 to 25 hours, and I'm still improving mine over time. So you can do it. It just may take you a little time. However, if you stick around to the end of this video, I am going to give you a chance to just go to my website and grab mine. And even if you don't feel like sticking around, you said, wow, I think I need one of those. Just drop a comment and tell me how I can get a hold of you, and I'll send you the information you'll need to get your own copy of my BSGC pricing proposal. Now, for those of you who want to stick around, let me walk you through the process of building and using a tool like this. So step 1, you have to create your own BSGC pricing sheet. And you can, like I said, you can use Excel or Google Sheets. They both work. I've done it both ways, actually. I need you to go in and you're going to load what it typically costs you to create or deliver whatever it is you sell clients. So, but make sure you include things like client meetings, status meetings, phone calls, reading and replying to email. You can put those under just like an admin modifier. That's what I tend to do. Or you could call it out as an admin product. Meetings are the one thing I will actually call out as a product, because some clients will say, oh, we want to meet once a week. Well, that's great. But as we all know, there's a cost to meetings, especially if you're an agency and they want, the whole team there on the call or in the meeting. Those meetings get really expensive really fast. The important thing here is that you have to productize your offering. So when a client asks you how much it costs to create, let's say, a social media post, you're not going to say depends. You're going to have a fixed cost based on known parameters. So for instance, you might have a cost for social media posts that use client supplied imagery. You might have a second cost for one where you're using stock images. And maybe it accounts for the cost of a stock image. And you might have a different one for posts that are created with custom photography, and somehow maybe you worked in the cost of acquiring that custom photography. So you would have 3 different pricing levels for social media posts. And that pricing is going to be based on an average of your historical cost to produce each type. Then you can do this for each and everything you could potentially sell a client. Okay. So this is mine up here. And as you can see, it's extremely detailed and it's honestly growing all the time. And then the next time you're preparing a pricing quote, you're going to open your BSGC template. And in the left column, you're going to start selecting the various deliverables that are needed to deliver whatever it is they're asking you to produce for them. So for instance, if you were asked to build a website, you would start adding in all of the finite deliverables and outside costs associated with building a website. Then under this gold column, you spec out a MacDaddy website. All right. You have lots of pages, multiple forums, multiple light boxes. It'd be great. Under that silver column, you'd spec out something more akin to maybe the website they have today, or that site plus maybe some enhancements that you've discussed. And then finally, under that bronze column, you're going to spec out the down and dirty version of a website, the cheapest website you could ethically produce for them and not feel like that you're stealing their money or building them a worthless website. Now, once you're done, I would encourage you to consider listing additional services that would make sense for a client. It makes sense for them to consider in order to maximize the investment of, let's say, this new website, even though they didn't specifically ask for it. So that might be like SEO or SEM services, upgrades, whatever it might be. Again, you'd probably list all those under the gold because that's the MacDaddy. You might put, I don't know, half of them under silver, and you might not put any of them under bronze because that's your down and dirty option. And now your pricing proposal is finished. All right, super simple, super easy, didn't take you a lot of time. And step 3, you're going to send that finished pricing proposal to your client with instructions for how to use it. Or better yet, and this I would encourage you to do, offer to walk them through it face to face or maybe over Zoom, because that way you can explain to them, hey, look, this is how this works. This is what is meant by bronze, silver, and gold. And then you can probably say the single most important thing you're going to say in this entire process. And you absolutely should tell them this. Hey, nobody ever really buys bronze, silver, or gold. I mean, while I have shown that to you, if I've gotten lucky, if I've thrown the dart and I've hit the invisible bullseye, awesome, great, let me know. But if I haven't, don't worry about it, okay? Because what usually happens is clients start looking at these and they start seeing different combinations that really represent kind of maybe more what they're looking for, true value in their eyes. And that's really what column C is for, Mr. Client or Mrs. Client. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go into column C and then show them how that they can double click and they can start to select, how many units of that individual product or that individual deliverable that they would like, right? So for like the website, it might be total number of pages, or it might be total number of templates, or it might be total number of lightbox. And they point out that, look, you can change the inputs as much as you want. And every time you change them, the totals for the proposal under the column, for the custom column, it's just going to update automatically, right? So have at it, knock yourself out. Feel free to do as many what ifs as you want. But as soon as you feel like you've reached the perfect scope and budget combination for you, great, just stop. Send that over to me, let me know, and I'll bake that scope and pricing into our contract and then send that over for your approval. And folks, this is where the magic happens, okay? This is where you're going to realize the very first time you use this BSGC approach, you're going to realize, wow, I'm not negotiating. I'm really not. Instead, I'm having this really high quality face-to-face or maybe virtual discussion with my client prospect, and I'm walking them through these various options to achieve what they've told me they want to hire us to help them achieve, but I'm really just guiding them versus selling them. But more importantly, because you're telling them to treat the first 3 columns as a menu and you're encouraging them to pick and choose what they want, they'll feel like they're buying what they want to buy versus what you might be trying to sell them, okay? They're going to feel that same, hey, he or she's not trying to sell me something. They're just trying to guide me through this tool that they use, and I get to decide what I want to buy. And it gives them the feeling that they're also deciding what they want to pay, even though that's not true because you've already pre-programmed that, right? But you'll also discover this. Not once in this process will you end up discussing how much an individual item costs. I've never had that happen. Instead, what happens is you spend all of your time figuring out, hey, how do we best invest this limited budget to achieve the maximum impact for what it is we're trying to do? And that's it. A simple tool, an even simpler approach to free you forever from the dread and anxiety associated with pricing your services for clients and prospects. And if you want to try out this nirvana for yourself, just head over to my site, grab my BSGC Pricing Proposal Builder template. I put a link down in the video description to make that easy for you. And hey, if you found this video helpful, please subscribe, click the bell. Let me make sure that you are notified every time I post a new video here. And if you're looking for even more sales prospecting advice, why not stop over to our site and grab my Painless Prospecting e-letter. I'll also put a link to that subscription page in the video description. I'll be honest, I try to publish twice a month, sometimes more, but in each issue, I guarantee you, I'm sharing great tips and tricks to make your prospecting painless. So this is Tom Martin. I'll see you next time.